So Ilia Topuria has just knocked out Max Holloway in the third round. Very impressive performance. So as always, after every big fight, I'm going to go through all the potential opponents for Ilia Topuria and rank them based on their chances of winning. We're going to start off with the most likely next opponent for Topuria, and that is Alexander Volkanovski. Unfortunately, it has more or less been confirmed that Volk is the next opponent for Topuria, and he's going in the low chance tier. It's a bit depressing to put him that far down the list, but it's genuinely how I see that fight playing out. Obviously, Volk did quite well in the first round of the fight, but that doesn't really matter at the end of the day because he did get knocked out in the next round. It wasn't even a single lucky punch either. Like, Topuria was getting to him before the knockout. And since Volk is more of a point fighter, I don't see him knocking out Topuria in a rematch. So that means he'd have to outpoint Topuria for 5 straight rounds. And since Topuria's only gotten better since that fight, and Volk's chin can only get worse since the first fight, he hasn't fought since either, I don't really see any other way that fight can go. Ilia knocks him out 9 out of 10 times. We're going to move on to the next opponent, and that's going to be Merab Dvalishvili. Now, Merab is going to go in the same tier as Volkanovski, and it's for quite similar reasons. Much like Volkanovski, the idea of Merab winning assumes the idea that the fight goes the full 5 rounds. Merab is a pressure fighter, and by being a pressure fighter, that means that he's putting himself in the line of fire for the full distance. And Merab in the past has been caught several times in the process. What separates Ilia Topuria from guys like Sean O'Malley, Henry Cejudo, Marlon Moraes? For one, he's 10 pounds heavier. Out of the 3, he's the best boxer and the most powerful. He's also a good wrestler and a good submission artist as well. So the chances of Merab getting caught by something in between one of his takedowns is very, very high. And that's why he's in the low chance tier. We move on to Aljamain Sterling. I'm going to put Aljo in the decent chance tier. I know it might sound wrong to put him above Volkanovski and above Merab, but just hear me out. It will make sense. He's quite slippery on the feet. He's always shooting takedowns, not just to avoid damage, but also to disrupt his opponent's rhythm. He's got some of the best jiu-jitsu in the sport. He's a very strong wrestler. And overall, I just view Aljo as the most tricky, awkward fighter in the whole UFC. And to compare him to Merab and Volk, I see him as the hardest to hit out of the 3. We've also never really seen Topuria's defensive jiu-jitsu in the UFC. We've seen Topuria get taken down once, and that was by Bryce Mitchell, who controlled him for the rest of the round. But obviously, like Merab, in between one of the takedowns, Ilia should catch him at some point. It's just the idea that maybe Aljo takes his back at some point in the fight. We move on to someone else on the low chance tier, and that is Sean O'Malley. The reason O'Malley's higher up than Volk on this list is simply because he's a harder style matchup, and I think he's more dangerous than Volk. O'Malley does have the potential for a one-punch knockout. He's got brilliant footwork, very tricky. He's got very diverse, dynamic striking. He's very unpredictable, very volatile on the feet. He's also got a serious height and reach advantage, which he can make use of. But obviously on the flip side, Ilia can wrestle. Ilia can put him out with one punch, and Ilia has more paths to victory compared to O'Malley. But I do see O'Malley being really tricky for Topuria on the feet in the early rounds. We move on to a new featherweight contender, and that is Diego Lopez. Lopez is also going on the decent chance tier. He's not more skilled or more technical than any other fighter on this list. He's just very, very dangerous on the feet and on the ground. And sometimes that's all it takes for someone to have a decent chance against you. Regardless of who he fights, Lopez will always have crazy power, and he'll always have crazy finishing ability. And Ilia is not impossible to hit, so the connection can be made. But obviously Topuria should win because he's more technical on the feet, more skilled on the feet, and has much better stamina. We move on to someone who has beaten Diego Lopez, and that is Movsar Evloev. I know Lopez lost to Evloev, but styles make fights, and Evloev has one of the worst styles to use in terms of beating Ilia Topuria. He's quite hittable on the feet. He's got no finishing ability himself at all, really. He is pillow-fisted, and he's not particularly strong or big for the division either. His takedowns have been stuffed in the past. Allen should have beaten him even without that stupid rule about grounded knees. He's a great wrestler, but not as good as Merab or Aljo or anyone else on the list, really. That's why he's in the no tier. We move on to a fight that will never happen, but for some reason people are talking about it.
Ilia Topuria. I grab him by the scruff of the chest and slap that little nose off him, yeah? Little ding-dong of a thing he is, yeah? I'm fucking Spanish. I'm in Marbella, bro, yeah? I'm in Marbella at the bare knuckle stall, and let's see what's what. We'll bounce in the yoke, have a bare knuckle. You little fool, I'll cave your head in. You little short-ass thick, I'll box your jaw in. On sight. I'm in Marbella, Spain, yeah? I'm in Marbella, Spain, October 12th at the bare knuckle. Stall it, bro, yeah? See what happens here. See what happens here when you cross me, bro, or you come across...
Personally, I don't think Conor McGregor can beat Ilia Abturo or Ilia Topuria. That's why he's in the notes here. We move on further up the list to Islam Makhachev. Islam is the first fighter to be added to the whirlwind tier and also one of the only fighters to be above decent chance. The obvious reason that Islam is the clear favourite over Topuria is the size. Not just the height and reach, which will be a game changer for the striking, it's mainly to do with pure strength. Islam has such unnatural strength for a fighter. It's bad enough to be a natural 155-pound fighter dealing with that strength, but to be a natural 145-pound fighter, it's an even bigger issue. Volkanovski did do really well defending the takedowns of Islam, but I feel like Volk is a lot more suited to bulking up naturally to 155 pounds, unlike Ilia, who's a perfect size for 145 pounds. Also, striking wise, the way Islam maintains distance is very impressive, and I can see Islam's knees in the clinch being really effective versus Ilia, so I trust Islam to beat Ilia. We move on to Islam's next opponent, and that is Arman Tsarukyan. Arman's going in the 50-50 tier. This is a very fascinating fight to me in many ways. To me, Arman and Islam have very similar natural strength. When they fought the first time, they cancelled each other out, and they both out-muscled Charles Oliveira. Obviously, Islam being the better grappler stayed out of danger, unlike Arman, but Arman is a much more dynamic, explosive striker. So that makes him more dangerous, but also more open on the feet at the same time, which is why he got caught by that infamous left hook by Joaquim Silva. So strength and grappling-wise, Arman clearly has the edge, but Arman is quite vulnerable on the feet, so that makes it interesting. We move on to the final opponent, and that is going to be Charles Du Bronx Oliveira. There's two very big reasons why he's below Arman Tsarukyan and Islam. The first one being Charles Oliveira's biggest weakness, and that is his strike and defence. He's very much a kill or be killed fighter. He seems to get dropped every fight, and getting dropped by someone like Ilia Topuria would be very dangerous. He also doesn't have the natural strength that Arman or Islam has. But offensively, with the striking, he's very dangerous for Ilia, mainly because of his ranginess, but also the tools he uses on the feet, especially in the clinch. Knees, uppercuts, elbows, also his straight shots at range, his nice little counter hooks around the guard, and his kicks. Ilia would have to go through hell to close the distance on Oliveira, and that could make it an interesting fight. And that does it for my tier list. Like the video, leave a comment, it helps the channel. Goodbye.